A disabled man's taking Somerset Council to the High Court, claiming its council tax reduction scheme is discriminatory and irrational. Andy Mitchell didn't have to pay until he was switched to universal credit and now has to pay 90%. Somerset Council said it was going to undertake a fundamental review of its scheme to ensure it remains fit for purpose, inclusive and affordable.
Now, we heard last week that thousands of people are facing higher council tax bills here in Somerset because of changes to both their benefits and the council tax discount scheme run by the local authority. What's happening is lots of people are being moved from old disability benefits onto universal credit by the government. Their previous benefits would have got them an automatic exemption from paying council tax, but universal credit doesn't get that. And Somerset Council's new council tax exemption scheme, which came in last April, often means that these people are landed with much bigger bills than they were expecting. Now, we heard from Martin in Burnham-on-Sea, who has multiple sclerosis and now has to pay £110 a month in council tax, having previously paid nothing. Well, now a disabled man from Taunton, Andy Mitchell, is taking Somerset Council to the High Court over this. He's been speaking to our reporter, Ruth Bradley.
So I just moved over from employment and support allowance to universal credit. It's called part of their managed migration scheme. So employment and support allowance is considered a legacy benefit. And so since July 2024, they've been moving claimants over. And the ESA, people on the ESA tend to have a health condition or they're disabled.
Yeah, and in your case it means you're unable to work in paid employment as well.
That's right. I mean, I do a lot of things that aren't paid, but I try to keep as active as possible, but I've had to stop paid work.
And so when that letter came, did you have any prior warning at all?
I just thought I'm moving from one to the new benefit universal credit. I didn't think anything more about it. So when I received the letter, it was a shock. And to begin with, I thought it was a mistake. I mean, I immediately rang them up. I spoke to 4 different people on the phone. The first 3 didn't know what was going on. The 4th person in the welfare department said, no, it wasn't a mistake, that it's quite common, it's happening to a lot of people, and that they have a hardship scheme if you're struggling to pay for it. So I asked for a hardship application form, and that was it.
The thought of now needing to find nearly £1,300 a year, your income hasn't changed, your circumstances haven't changed. Where could you find that money from?
As you say, I don't have an awful lot of money. I just have benefit income, and every month can be a struggle. So, and one of the things I'm really looking to do at the moment is buy an adjustable bed, because I can no longer lie down on a normal bed because I get a lot of pain in my back and in my shoulders. At the moment, I'm sleeping in a chair, at home in the living room. And that council tax bill, lots of other people have unexpected bills and things like that. That just pushes it further away. That bed is pushed further away because I have to prioritise that bill rather than, saving for the bed. That bed's going to cost around £1,500 as far as I'm aware. That's the immediate issue for me. I have enough problems at sleeping at night without having to sleep in a chair. I find sleeping very difficult. I have a lot of sort of intrusive or obtrusive thoughts, and I find it very difficult to switch off. At the moment, just sleeping in a chair makes that just so much worse. It's a difficult thing for me. I'm not trying to say that I'm any worse than anybody else. Everybody has these sorts of issues, these unexpected bills, but that's just the reality for me.
Is that part of the reason why you're bringing this court case, actually? Because it's not just about you, it's about lots of other people who could be in the same situation or similar situation.
So it started off just being about me. I had absolutely no idea that there was this issue with council tax. But I quickly learned through a bit of research online that it wasn't just happening to me, that it was happening to lots of other people. So this has created a greater importance for me, a greater want to take this to judicial review, because I'm not just doing it for myself anymore, I'm doing it for other people as well.
And so what do you ultimately hope that court case might achieve?
Well, hopefully, if we win, it will mean that disabled people are treated a bit better. We are subject at the moment to so much hostility. Last year we had disability benefit cuts from the government that would have absolutely devastated so many people. Later in the year there's cuts to the Motability scheme. And now I find out that we've had this. There's a reason why 70% of the people who get food parcels from food banks are disabled or come from disabled families. It's because they're really struggling. I'm not suggesting that other people aren't struggling. The cost of living is devastating for a lot of non-disabled and disabled people. Disabled people, deserve to be treated a bit better than what's happening at the moment.
That's Andy Mitchell from Taunton taking Somerset Council to court. Let's hear from Carolyn Ott. Carolyn is Andy's lawyer. Morning, Carolyn. Thanks for your time today. Why did you think it was important to bring this case to judicial review?
Morning. Thank you for having me. So we're bringing the case because it seems very unfair that people who previously received council tax support in recognition of their disability are suddenly facing huge council tax bills, even though neither their needs nor their level of income has changed. Our client Andy is arguing in his case that Somerset Council's tax reduction scheme is discriminatory because it treats the disability-related elements of universal credit as if they were their income rather than as benefits received because of a disability. We're also arguing that the council breached its public sector equality duty under the Equality Act because it failed to properly consider the impact of its scheme on disabled people. And we say it's arbitrary and therefore irrational to disregard the equivalent elements of employment and support allowance under legacy benefits, but not universal credit when the financial needs haven't changed.
Now, obviously, Andy is someone who's impacted by this, but I assume he's not the only one. Do you have any idea, sort of a rough idea of how many people might be impacted?
I do. So in August 2025, Citizens Advice reported that latest DWP data showed that there were over 4,400 Somerset residents receiving income-related employment and support allowance who are going to be migrated onto universal credit. So you're looking at over 4,000 potentially affected people in Somerset alone. And then there are a number of other councils who have similar policies across the country that have similar features as well.
Right, so we're talking thousands and thousands of people across the UK then, by the sounds of it. Now, yeah. Somerset isn't the only council. We know that we've talked a lot about Somerset's financial state and how difficult it is. We hear a lot about other councils within the UK as well, really seriously in financial problems. This isn't... The idea was to save money to, if they're getting more people paying council tax. Do you not think that this was the point of what they did and that they would have sort of looked through and made sure that they were acting within the law?
Well, so at the moment, it's not clear whether this is something that was done because the impact of migration to universal credit wasn't properly thought about, or whether it was a deliberate attempt to save costs. But local authorities do have an obligation to show that they considered impact, and so we need to see whether they're able to show that they did.
Carolyn, thank you very much for your time. And that's Carolyn Ott there, is a human rights lawyer from Lee Day Solicitors, representing Andy Mitchell from Taunton, who we heard from earlier on this morning, in his case against Somerset Council. Now, the council said it would be contesting the judicial review and that a full review of its existing reports would be carried out over the next 12 months. A spokesperson said, recognising the concerns that such claimants have, we are undertaking a fundamental review of our scheme to ensure that it remains fit for purpose, inclusive and affordable. And we will be consulting on the scheme in summer 2026. For implementation in April 2027. We also operate a means-tested exceptional hardship scheme to support the most vulnerable, they said. It's 8:29